My boyfriend cheated with my former roommate, so I secretly moved out while he was at work. He found out from the landlord and now he won't stop harassing me. I had to get a restraining order against both of them after they kept trying to contact me through my family and friends. My boyfriend Mike, 31M, and I, 38F, have been together for 3 years. We moved in together 18 months ago when his lease ended. Our current lease expires in 2 weeks and I just found out he has been sleeping with Casey, 32F, who used to live with us. Let me explain the history here. Mike and Casey were roommates for almost 2 years before I moved in. When we decided to live together, Casey found her own place but stayed very close with both of us. She came over for dinner twice a week. Had her own key to water plans when we traveled and knew where we kept everything in the house. Mike and I were friends for 6 years before we started dating. We worked at the same company and hung out in the same group. When we finally got together, it felt natural because we already knew each other so well. Moving in together seemed like the obvious next step. Casey works as a bartender at an upscale restaurant downtown. She makes good money but spends it quickly. Mike always helped her with rides when her car broke down. Listened to her problems with different guys she dated and gave her advice about everything from work, drama to apartment hunting. He would drop our plans if she called needing help moving furniture or dealing with landlord issues. I asked Mike several times if there was something between them. He always said Casey was like a sister to him and that I was being paranoid. Casey told me the same thing when I brought it up with her directly. She said Mike was too much like a brother for her to see him that way. They both made me feel silly for even asking. 3 months ago, Mike started acting different. He kept his phone face down during dinner and took calls in another room. He stopped asking me to join him when Casey needed help with something. When I suggested we all go out together like we used to, he said Casey was too busy with work or dating someone new. Last Tuesday at 2 a.m., I could not sleep and decided to check his phone. I know this was wrong, but something in my gut told me to look. I found text messages between Mike and Casey from the previous evening. The messages were explicit and clearly show they have been meeting up for sex. There were references to things they did the week before and plans to meet again. I woke Mike up immediately and showed him the messages. He sat up and stared at the phone for a long time without saying anything. Then he admitted they had slept together, but said it only happened once and meant nothing. He begged me to forgive him and said he would cut contact with Casey completely. I told him I needed time to think and went to sleep in the guest room. The next morning he left for work and I called in sick. I spent the entire day looking at apartments online and called 3 places to schedule viewings by evening. I had put a deposit down on a 1-bedroom apartment across town. I have not told Mike about the apartment. My plan is to hire movers while he is at work next week and take all my belongings. I will leave a note explaining that I am done with a relationship and do not want him to contact me. The lease on our current place ends in 2 weeks, so he will need to find somewhere else to live or negotiate staying here on his own. Mike makes decent money as an IT specialist, but he has student loans and a car payment. Our rent is expensive and I know he cannot afford it alone. He also does not have enough saved for a security deposit on a new place. When we moved in together, we split everything equally. But I pay the full security deposit because he was between jobs at the time. My friends think I'm doing the right thing. They say Mike made his choice and needs to deal with the consequences. My older sister thinks I should tell him I am moving out so he has time to make arrangements. She says leaving without warning is cruel. Even though what he did was wrong, I keep going back and forth on this. Part of me thinks he deserves to scramble for housing after what he did. Another part of me wonders if I should at least give him a few days' notice. We have been friends for so long that completely disappearing feels harsh. The thing that bothers me most is not just the cheating, but how they both lie to my face for months. Casey sat at our kitchen table eating meals I cooked while she was sleeping with my boyfriend. She hugged me goodbye and asked how I was doing while carrying on behind my back. Mike kissed me goodnight and said he loved me. On the same day as he was texting Casey about meeting up. I found more messages going back 6 weeks. They were not just having sex, but talking about me and our relationship. Casey complained that I was too controlling because I asked Mike to let me know if he would be late coming home. Mike agreed and said he felt suffocated sometimes. They made jokes about things I said and did. Like how I organized the spice rack and always checked the weather before leaving the house. The worst message was from 3 days ago. Casey sent Mike photos and he responded with detailed comments about what he wanted to do to her. This was the same night I made his favorite dinner and we watched a movie together on the couch. He was texting her while I was sitting right next to him. I've been staying late at work this week to avoid being home with him when I do see him. He acts like everything is normal. He asks about my day and suggests weekend plans like nothing happened. Yesterday he brought home flowers and said he thought I seemed stressed lately. The flowers are still sitting on the counter because I could not bring myself to throw them away or put them in water. My lease at the new apartment starts Monday. The movers are scheduled for Wednesday morning when Mike will be in meetings all day. I have been slowly moving small items like jewelry and important documents to my car so he does not notice anything missing. I called our current landlord yesterday to ask about getting my name removed from the lease early. I explained the situation without going into details and she was understanding. She said as long as Mike can prove he can afford the rent alone or finds a new roommate, she will let me out of the lease without penalty. Am I wrong for not telling Mike I am leaving? Should I give him time to prepare? Or does he deserve to figure it out on his own? I know this will cause problems for him financially. But I also know that staying and trying to work things out is not something I can do. Update 1: The plan to move out secretly did not work exactly as intended. The leasing office called Mike directly on Tuesday to confirm some paperwork details about me moving out. He came home early from work and caught me packing the last of my kitchen items. Mike asked if we could talk before I finished moving. I agreed because I realized I wanted to say some things to his face instead of just leaving a note. We sat in the living room, surrounded by half-packed boxes, and I told him exactly what I thought about his behavior. I started by asking why he wanted to talk now, when he had weeks to bring up his relationship with Casey. I pointed out how he and Casey both smiled and acted normal around me while they were meeting up behind my back. I reminded him of all the times he told me I was being paranoid about their friendship. Then I brought up something I had not mentioned before. I told him I knew he had been gossiping about Casey's other relationships and making fun of the guy she brought home. I found these messages mixed in with her sexting. He would tell Casey that her latest date seemed like a loser, and she deserved better. Then turn around and sleep with her while dating me. The part that made me most angry was finding out they had been intimate in our apartment while I was home. There were messages about doing things quietly so I would not hear from the next room. Mike had kissed me goodnight and told me he loved me the morning after one of these encounters. I also discovered Mike had been telling Casey things about our relationship that were private. He complained to her about my habits and shared details about arguments we had. Casey knew things about our finances and future plans that I had only discussed with Mike. The final thing I confronted him about was a lie, he told Casey. In their messages, he claimed we had talked about seeing other people and that I was okay with it as long as we were honest about it. This conversation never happened. He invented it to make Casey think she was not doing anything wrong. Mike sat quietly while I said all of this. When I finished, he admitted he had messed up badly and said he took full responsibility. Then immediately he started making excuses. He said we have been arguing more lately and he felt like we were growing apart. He claimed Casey understood him in ways I did not, and that talking to her made him realize what was missing in our relationship. I told him that if he thought talking was the problem, he should have used his mouth to communicate with me instead of other parts of his body to communicate with Casey. Mike said he had ended things with Casey completely and wanted to focus on saving our relationship. I laughed and told him he was too late. As I was carrying the last box to my car, Mike asked where I was moving. I told him that information was none of his business anymore. He said he would give me space, but hoped we could eventually be friends again, since we had known each other for so long. I said that after what he did, Friendship was impossible. I left copies of the paperwork showing I was released from the lease obligations. Our former landlord had agreed to let me out completely since the lease was ending soon anyway. Mike would need to sign a new lease on his own or move out by the end of the month. My new apartment is smaller, but it feels peaceful. I adopted a cat from the shelter and have been setting up my space exactly how I want it. Work has been busy, which helps keep my mind occupied during the day. Last week I ran into Casey at the grocery store near my new place. She lives in the same neighborhood, which I did not know when I chose my apartment. Casey tried to approach me, but I walked away without acknowledging her. She followed me to the parking lot and said she wanted to explain what happened against my better judgment. I stopped and listened. Casey said she never meant for things to go as far as they did with Mike. She claimed it started as just flirting and got out of hand. She said she felt terrible about hurting me and wanted to apologize. I asked Casey when exactly she started feeling terrible. Before or after I found out. She could not answer the question directly. Then I asked if she was still in contact with Mike. Casey hesitated before saying they had talked a few times since I moved out, but were not seeing each other anymore. Something about her hesitation made me push further. I asked Casey to be completely honest about what happened between them. She looked uncomfortable, but eventually admitted the affair had been going on longer than Mike told me. They first hooked up 4 months ago, not 6 weeks ago. Like the text messages showed, Casey also revealed that Mike had initiated everything. He started making comments about her appearance and asking personal questions about her dating life. When she mentioned feeling lonely after a breakup, Mike suggested they comfort each other. Casey said she knew it was wrong, but felt flattered by his attention. The most disturbing thing Casey told me was that Mike had complained about me specifically to justify cheating. He told Casey I was too focused on planning our future and not spontaneous enough. He said I made him feel like he was already married and trapped. Casey said Mike claimed he needed to feel desired and free, which their arrangement provided. Before ending the conversation, Casey mentioned that Mike had been contacting her almost daily since I moved out. He wanted to continue their relationship now that he was single. But Casey said she was not interested in anything serious with him. She preferred their previous arrangement where they could be physical without commitment. I thanked Casey for being honest and told her I did not want to see her again if we crossed paths in the neighborhood. She nodded and we went our separate ways. That evening, I blocked her number and social media accounts, though she had not tried to contact me directly. Update 2: Mike has been trying to reach me constantly since Casey told him where I live. He calls and texts multiple times per day asking to meet up and talk. I blocked his number, but he started calling from work and asking coworkers to pass along messages. I had to ask my supervisor to tell people at our company not to get involved in my personal business. 2 weeks ago, Mike showed up at my apartment building. The front door requires a key card so he could not get inside, but he waited in the parking lot for me to come home. When I saw his car, I parked on the street and called my neighbor to let me in through the back entrance. Mike sat in his car for over 2 hours before leaving. He tried the same thing 3 more times, so I contacted building security. They added his photo to their system and told him he was not welcome on the property. Mike argued with the security guard and said he just wanted to apologize to his girlfriend. The guard explained that I had requested no contact and threatened to call police if Mike returned. Last weekend, my sister called to tell me Mike had contacted her. He got her number for my emergency contact information at work and called, asking her to convince me to give him another chance. My sister told him she supported my decision and would not help him contact me. Mike then spent 20 minutes explaining his side of the story and asking my sister to understand his perspective, according to my sister. Mike claimed the affair with Casey meant nothing had happened because he was scared about getting more serious with me. He said seeing me organize and plan our life together made him panic about losing his freedom. Mike told my sister he realized now that I was the person he wanted to be with, and Casey was just a distraction. My sister asked Mike why he thought this explanation would make things better. She pointed out that being afraid of commitment was not an excuse for cheating and lying for months. Mike apparently became defensive and said, "Everyone makes mistakes." My sister ended the call and blocked his number. I decided to change my phone number since Mike kept finding ways to contact me. I only gave the new number to close family and friends, with specific instructions not to share it with anyone. This helped reduce the harassment but did not stop it completely. Mike started sending messages through social media platforms and email. Most of these messages were long paragraphs about how sorry he was and how much he missed me. Some included promises about changing and going to counseling. A few were angry, accusing me of being unforgiving and throwing away years of friendship over one mistake. The breaking point came when Mike contacted my parents. He called their house and spoke to my mother for almost an hour. Mike told her we had broken up over a misunderstanding and that I was refusing to communicate with him. He said he loved me and wanted to propose, but needed my family's help to reach me. My mother called me confused about what was happening. I had not told my parents the details of the breakup, just that Mike and I were no longer together. When my mother started suggesting I give Mike a chance to explain himself, I had to tell her about the cheating. She was shocked because she had always liked Mike and thought he was good for me. After talking to my mother, I realized Mike was going to keep disrupting my life and involving other people until I took stronger action. I consulted with a lawyer about getting a restraining order. The lawyer said I had enough documentation of unwanted contact to file for a temporary order, especially since Mike had shown up at my home multiple times before filing paperwork. I decided to send Mike one final message through a mutual friend at work. I asked this friend to tell Mike clearly that I would pursue legal action if he continued trying to contact me or my family. The message specified that any further attempts to reach me would result in a restraining order. Mike responded through the same mutual friend, saying he understood and would respect my wishes. For about a week, the contact stopped completely. I thought the problem was resolved until Casey called my new number. Casey said Mike had given her my contact information and asked her to talk to me. She claimed Mike was in a bad place emotionally and just wanted closure. Casey said she felt guilty about her role in our breakup and thought she owed it to both of us to help fix things. I told Casey that Mike had no right to give out my private information and that neither of them owed me anything except to leave me alone. Casey became defensive and said she was trying to help. She accused me of being stubborn and said most people would at least try to work things out after a long relationship. This conversation revealed that Mike and Casey were still in regular contact, despite what she had told me at the grocery store. Casey let slip that she knew details about Mike's current living situation and job stress, that she would only know if they were talking frequently. When I pointed this out, Casey admitted they had been supporting each other through the aftermath of our breakup. I ended the call and immediately filed for a restraining order the next morning. The temporary order was approved within 48 hours. Covering both Mike and Casey, a process server. Deliver the papers to Mike at work and to Casey at her apartment. The order prohibited any direct or indirect contact with me for 30 days, with a hearing scheduled to determine if it should be extended. Update 3: The restraining order hearing happened 3 weeks ago. Mike showed up with a lawyer and tried to argue that his attempts to contact me were reasonable efforts to apologize and seek forgiveness. His lawyer presented text messages and emails as evidence that Mike was genuinely remorseful and not threatening. I brought documentation of all the unwanted contact, including messages Mike sent through other people and his visits to my apartment building. The security footage from my building showed Mike waiting in the parking lot multiple times after being told to stay away. I also presented evidence that Mike had shared my private contact information with Casey without permission. The judge extended the restraining order for 1 year. She said Mike's pattern of behavior showed he was not respecting clear boundaries, and that involving third parties to bypass my wishes was particularly concerning. The judge told Mike that his feelings did not give him the right to harass me, and that he needed to accept the relationship was over. Mike looked shocked when the judge ruled against him. His lawyer tried to argue for a shorter period. But the judge said a full year was appropriate given the escalation pattern, Mike will not be allowed to contact me directly or indirectly until next spring, and any violation could result in criminal charges. Casey did not appear at the hearing, but the restraining order against her was also extended. I later found out from a coworker that Casey had been telling people at local bars that I was crazy and vindictive. She claimed I was using the legal system to get revenge because I could not handle being cheated on. These comments got back to me through mutual acquaintances. 2 weeks after the hearing, I learned Mike had to move back in with his parents. He could not afford our old apartment alone and could not find a roommate willing to take over the lease midterm. His parents live about an hour outside the city, so he now has a long commute to work. Several people at our company mentioned seeing Mike looking tired and stressed. Casey apparently moved out of my neighborhood around the same time. I do not know where she went, but I stopped seeing her at local stores and restaurants. Someone told me she was having trouble at work because customers complained about her attitude, but I did not verify this information. I changed jobs last month to avoid any potential workplace contact with Mike. My new position pays better and has more opportunities for advancement. The office culture is more professional and I do not have to worry about personal drama affecting my work environment. My life has settled into a comfortable routine. I work, spend time with friends who are not connected to Mike, and have been taking pottery classes on weekends. The cat I adopted has adjusted well to the apartment and provides good company in the evenings. I have not dated anyone since the breakup and do not feel ready to start. Several friends have suggested introducing me to people they know, but I prefer focusing on myself right now. The experience with Mike taught me to pay attention to my instincts when something feels wrong in a relationship. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had confronted the situation earlier, instead of letting my doubts build up over time. But I cannot change the past, and I am satisfied with how I handled everything. Once I discover the truth, Mike and Casey made their choices and I made mine. The restraining order has been effective. I have not received any unwanted contact since it was put in place. My family understands the situation now and knows not to share information about me with Mike if he tries to reach them again. I feel secure in my new living situation and confident in my decision to end the relationship completely. Looking back, the hardest part was not the cheating itself, but the realization that two people I trusted had been deceiving me for months. They sat in my home, shared meals with me, and acted like friends while conducting an affair behind my back. That level of betrayal was worse than if Mike had cheated with a stranger. I have no regrets about how I handled the situation. Some people might think I was too harsh by not giving Mike a second chance, but I believe people show you who they really are through their actions. Mike showed me he was capable of sustained deception and manipulation. Casey showed me she was willing to betray a friend for temporary physical gratification. Neither of them deserved my forgiveness or my friendship. The restraining order expires in 9 months. I hope Mike has used this time to work on himself and understand why his behavior was unacceptable. But whether he has changed or not is no longer my concern. I built a new life without him and it is better than what I had before. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2 caught my wife with my neighbor at a hotel during a client meeting, and when I confronted her with evidence, she filed false harassment charges against me. I 35M never thought I'd be writing something like this, but I need to get this off my chest before I lose my mind. My whole world turned upside down last month and I'm still trying to process everything that happened. I've been married to Belinda for 8 years, and what I thought was a happy marriage turned out to be a complete lie. I met Belinda at a local food festival through mutual friends. I was there with my college roommate and his wife. And Belinda came with her gym friends. She was bubbly, confident, and had this infectious laugh that made everyone around her smile. We hit it off immediately. She was working as a fitness trainer at a small gym back then, and I had just started my architecture firm. We dated for 2 years before getting married. The first few years of our marriage were great. We bought a house in a nice neighborhood 4 years ago. Belinda switched to a bigger gym with better pay and my business was doing well. We traveled a lot. Had a great group of friends and everyone thought we were the perfect couple. We never had any major issues except for the usual stuff. Couples fight about me working late sometimes. Or her spending too much on gym gear. Things started changing about 6 months ago when Morgan, 37 and his wife Jenny moved in next door. They seemed like a nice couple. Morgan works from home as a software developer, while Jenny travels almost every week for her consulting job. Belinda and I invited them for dinner to welcome them to the neighborhood. Everything was normal until Belinda mentioned that Morgan had joined her gym. Belinda started talking about Morgan more frequently. She would come home and tell me how he was struggling with his form and how she was helping him out. I actually encouraged her to help him because I thought it would be good to have friendly neighbors. Morgan would sometimes come over when I was working in my home office to ask Belinda about workout routines. I never suspected anything because Belinda had many clients from the gym who would consult her. Last month, I had an important meeting with a client who was staying at the Marriott downtown. This client was planning to build a luxury apartment complex, and it would have been the biggest project for my firm. I reached the hotel early and had a productive meeting. As I was walking through the lobby with my client discussing some final details, I saw Belinda and Morgan coming out of the elevator. My heart stopped when I saw them. Belinda was wearing a dress I had never seen before. And they were walking too close to each other. She was laughing and playfully hitting his arm. I quickly took out my phone and started recording them while pretending to show something to my client on my phone. They were holding hands and Belinda quickly let go. When they reached the hotel entrance, she kept looking around nervously, probably checking if anyone had seen them. I wanted to confront them right there, but I was with my client. I couldn't afford to make a scene and lose this project. I made an excuse about having another meeting and followed them outside. They got into Morgan's car and drove off. I was shaking with anger and felt sick to my stomach when I reached home that evening. Belinda was acting completely normal. She was making dinner and talking about her day at the gym. She mentioned how busy she was with her clients and how tired she felt. I checked her location history on Google Maps. We share our locations for safety reasons, and saw that she was at the Marriott for 3 hours in the afternoon. She had even marked herself as busy on the gym scheduling app during those hours. I spent the next week gathering evidence. I'm not proud of what I did, but I needed proof. I installed cameras in our house when Belinda was at work, one in the living room and one in the backyard. I also put a voice recorder in her car. I told my assistant to clear my schedule for the next few days and work from home to monitor everything. The evidence I gathered was devastating. The cameras caught them kissing in our backyard when I was supposedly at work. Belinda would text me that she was with a client while Morgan came over. The voice recorder caught their conversations about their hotel meetings and how they needed to be careful. They even talked about their weekend plans when Jenny would be traveling next. I confronted Belinda with all the evidence after making copies of everything. Her reaction made me sick. She first tried to act confused, asking me why I was showing her these things. When I played the recordings, she tried to minimize everything, saying they were just friends and I was misinterpreting things. Finally, when I showed her the video from the hotel in their backyard meetings, she broke down. She started crying and saying she was naive and Morgan had manipulated her. According to her, Morgan started flirting with her during their training sessions and she got carried away. She said she was feeling lonely because I was always busy with work. She begged me to give her another chance, saying it was just a physical thing and she never had any feelings for Morgan. I was furious and went to confront Morgan. He was in his garage working on his car when I walked up to him with the evidence. His reaction was worse than Belinda's. He actually laughed and told me to control my wife. He said Belinda was the one who made advances towards him during their training sessions. He showed me messages where Belinda had complained about how I was always busy with work and didn't give her enough attention. According to him, she was the one who suggested meeting at hotels because Jenny was always traveling. He said he just gave her what she wanted and I should be mad at her, not him. I filed for divorce the next day. I had enough evidence to prove infidelity, so my lawyer said the divorce would be in my favor. I moved out of our house and into a hotel because I couldn't stand being in the same house where they had their affair. That's when things got really ugly. Belinda started telling everyone that I was making up stories about her affair, because I wanted to hide my own affair with my assistant. She said I had photoshopped the pictures and edited the videos to frame her. She even went to my clients and told them I was unstable and they shouldn't work with me. She filed a harassment case against me, saying I installed cameras and recording devices to stop her. My life turned into hell overnight. Some of our mutual friends started avoiding me. Even my parents were confused about who to believe because Belinda had always been so sweet to them. I'm writing this post because I need to vent and maybe get some advice. My lawyer says we have a strong case, but I'm still worried. Belinda seems capable of anything at this point. Has anyone been in a similar situation? How did you handle it? Did you manage to prove your innocence against false accusations? Update 1 first. I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Your support and advice helped me stay strong during these difficult weeks. A lot has happened since my last post and unfortunately things got much worse before a breakthrough happened. Belinda has been on a mission to destroy my reputation completely. She's been spreading horrible lies about me to anyone who will listen. Last week, she made a long social media post about being a survivor of domestic abuse. She claimed I have been controlling and abusive throughout our marriage. According to her post, I constantly checked her phone, controlled her finances, and isolated her from her friends. She even said I forced her to share her location with me so I could track her movements. The reality was that we shared locations because Belinda used to go running early in the morning and wanted me to be able to check on her for safety. She was actually the one who suggested it. As for the finances, we had separate accounts and a joint account for household expenses. She had complete control over her money from her personal training sessions. Several of her gym friends have been sending me threatening messages. One guy, who I later found out was her client, showed up at my hotel and tried to pick a fight. The hotel security had to intervene. I filed a police report, but they said they couldn't do much unless he actually did something. I lost 3 major clients because of Belinda's lies. One client specifically mentioned that they couldn't risk working with someone involved in a domestic abuse scandal. My assistant Lisa has been amazing through all this. She's been handling calls from clients and trying to do damage control, which, ironically, has given Belinda more ammunition for her claims about my affair with Lisa. But here's where things get interesting. Yesterday, Jenny Morgan's wife came to my office. She looked terrible, like she hadn't slept in days. She apologized for coming unannounced, but said she had something important to show me. Turns out Jenny had been suspicious of Morgan's behavior for months. She noticed he was being overly protective of his phone and was spending a lot of time at the gym. Despite not showing any real fitness improvements, Jenny hired a private investigator 3 months ago. The Pies report were shocking. Belinda and Morgan didn't just meet at the gym. They had matched on a dating app 6 months ago, even before Morgan and Jenny moved to our neighborhood. Jenny showed me pictures of the meeting at various places before they even joined the same gym. The gym was just their cover story. The Pie had collected hotel receipts, screenshots of their dating app, conversations, and pictures from various locations. The most shocking revelation was about their Vegas trip 3 months ago. Belinda had told me she was attending a fitness workshop, and Morgan told Jenny he was going to a coding boot camp. In reality, they spent the weekend together at the Bellagio. The Pie had pictures of them by the pool, at restaurants, and entering their hotel room. Jenny broke down while showing me all this. She said she had been gathering evidence for her own divorce case, but didn't know how to tell me. She felt guilty for not coming forward sooner, but was dealing with her own trauma. She also revealed that this wasn't Morgan's first affair. He had cheated on her twice before in California, which is why they moved here for a fresh start. When Belinda found out that Jenny had come to see me, she completely lost it. She started calling and texting Jenny non-stop, calling her horrible names and accusing her of trying to steal me away from her. The irony of Belinda accusing someone else of being a home wrecker would be funny if it wasn't so pathetic. Jenny recorded all these calls and messages, which will help both our cases. My lawyer was ecstatic when I showed him Jenny's evidence. He says this proves premeditation and completely destroys Belinda's narrative of being manipulated by Morgan. The evidence also shows that Belinda was the one who suggested they move to our neighborhood when their house went up for sale, probably to make their affair more convenient. Jenny and I have decided to help each other with our divorce cases. We're sharing legal expenses and evidence. Morgan still doesn't know about Jenny's pie and we're planning to blindside him in court. Jenny's lawyer thinks we should wait until Morgan makes his official statement denying the affair before presenting the evidence. My parents finally believe me after seeing the peace report. My mom cried when she saw the Vegas pictures and kept apologizing for ever doubting me. They've been incredibly supportive and have even offered to help me financially if I need it. Dad wants me to move back to my hometown and restart my business there, but I'm not ready to make that decision yet. The next court date is in 2 weeks. My lawyer is confident that Belinda's harassment case against me will be thrown out once we present all the evidence. He's also preparing a countersuit for defamation based on her false abuse allegations and the damage she's caused to my business. The only silver lining in all this is that some of our mutual friends have started reaching out to apologize after hearing about the peace evidence. A few of them admitted that Belinda's stories seemed inconsistent, but they were afraid to say anything. One friend even told me that Belinda had tried to hit on her husband last year, but he shut her down and didn't tell me to avoid causing problems. I'm trying to stay focused on my work and the legal process, but it's hard. Every time I think things can't get worse, Belinda finds a new way to hurt me. My lawyer advised me to stay in the hotel for now and document everything. I've started seeing a counselor to help me deal with all this stress. I'll update again after the court hearing. Thank you all for your support and advice. Update to the truth finally exploded in court today, and it was more dramatic than any of us expected. Everything changed when Belinda's ex-boyfriend Tom, who's the head trainer at her gym, came forward to testify. I hadn't mentioned Tom in my previous posts because I honestly didn't think he was relevant to our case. I was wrong. Tom contacted my lawyer last week after hearing about Belinda's abuse allegations against me. He said he had important information that would expose Belinda's pattern of behavior. My lawyer was skeptical at first, but Tom had receipts for everything he claimed in court today. Tom revealed that Belinda had a long history of cheating and manipulation. They dated for 2 years before she met me, and during that time she cheated on him with at least 3 different gym clients. What's worse is that she used to brag about her conquests to her friend Lisa, not my assistant Lisa, a different person, through texts and voice messages, which Lisa later shared with Tom after their messy breakup. Tom's testimony got really intense when he revealed that Belinda had tried to seduce him again 3 months ago, right in the middle of her affair with Morgan. According to Tom, she cornered him in his office after hours and suggested they relive old times when he rejected her advances and threatened to tell me about it. She immediately switched tactics and threatened to report him to gym management for harassment. That's when Tom started documenting everything. He showed the court his security camera footage from his office, text messages where Belinda threatened him, and recordings of their conversations where she admitted to cheating on me. Multiple times. The judge's face got sterner with each piece of evidence, but the real bombshell came when Tom revealed why he finally decided to come forward. Apparently, Belinda had been telling people at the gym that she was pregnant with Morgan's baby to gain sympathy. Tom knew this was impossible because Belinda had confidentially told him years ago that she couldn't have children due to a medical condition. He had medical records to prove this. Morgan's face turned white when he heard about the pregnancy lies. He looked at Belinda like he was seeing her for the first time. Jenny later told me that Morgan had been considering leaving her for Belinda because of the supposed pregnancy. Belinda had a complete meltdown in court. She started screaming that everyone was conspiring against her. She called Tom a liar and tried to throw her water bottle at him. The judge had to threaten her with contempt of court 3 times before she calmed down. After Tom's testimony, Belinda's friend Lisa approached me in the courthouse hallway. She was crying and apologizing profusely. She admitted that she had known about Belinda's affair with Morgan from the beginning. But Belinda had blackmailed her into staying quiet. Apparently, Belinda had evidence of Lisa cheating on her taxes and threatened to report her to the IRS if she ever told me anything. Lisa also revealed something that made me physically sick. Before Morgan, Belinda had cheated on me with 2 other men, a delivery guy who used to bring her protein supplements and her massage therapist. Lisa couldn't provide any evidence for these affairs, but given everything else we learned, I believed her. The judge didn't take long to throw out Belinda's harassment case against me. She ruled that my actions of installing cameras and recording devices were justified, given the circumstances and my suspicions. She also noted that all surveillance was done in common areas of my own home and in my own car, which was legal. Morgan tried to do damage control by claiming he was also a victim of Belinda's manipulation, but Jenny's pie evidence shut him down quickly. The pie had found emails where Morgan was coaching Belinda on what to say in her harassment case against me. They had planned to force me into a costly settlement that they would split between them. The most satisfying moment came when Belinda's lawyer quit right there in court. He said he couldn't continue representing her after discovering she had lied to him about several key facts. He apologized to the court and to me for some of the allegations he had made based on Belinda's lies. My divorce case is now proceeding smoothly. The judge has already indicated that Belinda's behavior will be considered when dividing assets. Morgan and Jenny's divorce is also moving forward, and from what Jenny told me, Morgan's attempts to hide assets aren't working out too well for him. I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders. The truth is finally out and people can see Belinda for who she really is. Some of her fitness clients have already started requesting different trainers at the gym. I'll update again once everything is finalized. Right now, I just want to thank Tom for having the courage to come forward. His testimony didn't just save my reputation. It probably saved me from years of dealing with Belinda's lies and manipulation. Update 3. Final update on this nightmare. The divorce is officially over, and the judge's ruling exceeded my lawyer's expectations. Belinda not only failed to get half of my business, but she also had to pay my legal fees because of her false allegations and the damage she caused to my reputation. The week after the ruling, Belinda showed up at my office unannounced. My assistant tried to stop her, but she pushed past her. She looked terrible, like she hadn't slept in days. She started crying and saying she had made a huge mistake. According to her, she was getting therapy and had realized she had serious issues with validation and commitment. She even brought up our first date and talked about how happy we were in the beginning. I just sat there letting her talk. When she finished, I simply asked her to leave and told her that if she ever came to my office again, I would file for a restraining order. She tried to grab my hand, but I pulled away. The look of shock on her face when she realized I was completely done with her was almost satisfying. The aftermath of the divorce has been interesting. Most of my clients have returned after learning the truth. 2 of them even gave me bigger projects as a way of apologizing for believing Belinda's lies. My business is actually doing better than before, because the whole drama somehow got me free publicity and local business circles. Jenny and I have remained friends. We meet for coffee every couple of weeks and help each other process everything that happened. She got a great settlement in her divorce because of all the evidence she had collected. Morgan had to sell their house and split everything 70-30 in Jenny's favor, because he had used their joint accounts to fund his affair with Belinda. Jenny bought a nice condo downtown and got a promotion at work. Tom has been surprisingly supportive throughout this ordeal. He introduced me to some of his friends and we formed a nice social circle. He and Lisa have been actively helping me repair my reputation, telling everyone who would listen about Belinda's pattern of lying and manipulation. Belinda's life took a nosedive after the divorce. The gym fired her after several clients complained about her behavior. Apparently, she had been trying to flirt with her husbands even after everything came out in court. She tried to claim unemployment, saying she was fired unjustly, but the gym had documented all the complaints against her. I heard from mutual friends that she's now working at a small gym in the next town over. She created new social media accounts and is trying to rebrand herself as a life coach who helps people overcome adversity. The irony is almost painful. She's also dating some guy she met online, and according to Jenny's friends, she's already telling people he's the love of her life. Morgan moved back to California after his divorce. Jenny heard from his ex-colleagues that he's trying to start his own software company, but is struggling because some potential investors Googled him and found out about the court case. As for me, I've decided to expand my business to the next state. I've already rented an office there and hired new staff. The distance will be good for me. I've sold our old house, couldn't stand looking at that backyard anymore, and bought a nice apartment in the city. I'm not ready to date yet, but I'm at peace with everything that happened. My parents want me to try online dating, but I've told them I need time. Right now, I'm focusing on my business and myself. To anyone going through something similar, document everything and trust your gut. If I hadn't recorded those initial encounters, Belinda's lies might have destroyed my life completely. Sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones capable of hurting us the worst. This will be my last update. Thank you all for your support throughout this journey. Time to close this chapter and move forward.